Hello and welcome. So, in the last episode, we implemented a couple of scripts, which were the player controller and camera controller. We now have a player. So, looking at these scripts, remember what they do. Right over to player controller, we're going to implement some things. So, first thing we want to do is implement a left and right direction. So doing so, we're going to put here a public float. I'm going to call this turn speed. We're going to set this variable to, let's say, 10 Unity units. And we're going to declare this in void update. So I'm going to do transform dot translate. Going to take a vector 3 again, but this time I'm going to choose right. Then we do as we did above, multiply by time dot delta time, and multiply by turn speed. I'm going to save the script. And as you can see here, we're going to implement a comment so we know what this does if we come back to it later. Turns the vehicle left and or right. Now we're going to make this so we can control it ourselves by adding a new variable. It's going to be horizontal input. Now this is an input.getAxes with a horizontal in the string. I'm going to declare this horizontal input. I'm going to do public float horizontal input. We're not going to declare it here as it's declared at runtime. I'm going to save the script again, and we're going to add the multiplication of horizontal input there. Save the script again. I save a lot. We're going to move over to Unity, allow the scripts to compile. And we're going to play, and we're going to see the effect that we have now. So, we can move left and right. Move forward is automatic, and we're going to be changing that soon. So, coming out of the game, I'm going to go over back to the scripts, and we're going to add the ability to speed up or slow down. So I'm going to implement a new variable called vertical input. It's going to be input.getAxes vertical. Don't forget to declare it at the top. So I'm going to do that as a public float. I autocomplete thanks to Visual Studio Code's extensions. I will show you which extensions I have got. So we'll move over here. See this little square we're going to do there. Just type up here, Unity. I have the Unity extension installed. And if you look down a bit, we've got Unity code snippets, which I also have installed. Closing this down because we do not need it. We're going to carry on. So, we had now to input multiply by vertical input. I'm going to save again. I'm going to move over to the editor to see what impact we have. So press play. And the first thing you'll notice is we do not move automatically. So we have to hold up and or down and go left and right. We can reverse. If you go far enough back, we can fall off the map. So, going back to the script, we're going to improve on how we turn, as it's not the best turning at the moment. So instead, we're going to comment out this code, just in case you need it later. I'm going to make a new line. I'm going to do transform dot rotate vector 3 to up, and then we're going to implement the same variables as before. So we're going to do multiplied by the turn speed multiplied by the input, which in this case is horizontal, multiplied by time.delta time. Saving this, going over, we can test it once it's compiled. Here we go. Press play, allow it to reload. As you can see, we can now rotate. I'll just get to the end here. Bob and weave through the crates, trying to avoid touching them. There we go. Now, if you want, you can even reverse. Oh, that's enough. So let's go back. Now, we've done the coding. We can move forward, backwards, left, right. It rotates. Let's tidy up. So, having a look, we had a problem where we fell off the back. So, position ourselves so we can see. I'm going to create a new game object. I'm going to reset this position to 0, 0, 0 after calling it border. We're going to add a box collider to this. I'm going to change the size of the box collider. I'm going to put the X at about 22, the Y at 5, and the Z at 2. Moving this back so it covers the edge of the track. There we go. Now if you were to play, you could not reverse backwards. You would not fall off the edge. But you can still move off, left, right, and when you get to the end you will fall off. Tidying up, we're going to put all these obstacles into a parent game object, and we're just going to call this obstacles. Closing that down to clean up the hierarchy. I'm going to save. I'm going to check that the player script is good. We've got some variables here we don't need. We need them, but we don't need them visible. So I'm going to convert them from public to private. There we go. Delete this start. I'm going to add some comments. So, the first comment, we're going to put is putting what the speed does. So speed is equal to how fast the car moves in the forward direction and backwards. The turn speed, I'm going to do it as the variable name is, so it's easier to understand. Turn speed is how fast the car turns left or right. Change this one so it matches. There we go. Going to comment what the horizontal and vertical inputs do. So I'm going to do horizontal input again, matching how we've got it written. Vertical input is equal to receiving input vector from controller, which is your keyboard or controller, whatever. I'm converting it to a local space vector. Update is running every frame, so it runs every frame. I'm going to put a comment here for the inputs. So it's going to tell the controller that the inputs come from the axis, horizontal and vertical. Saving this. Go back to the project, and we have done this project. Allow everything to reload. I'm going to go back to the assets. I'm going to create a new folder. So click on the assets, and we're going to make a new folder. We're going to call this Project 2. We don't need to create a new Unity engine project, just one in the engine itself. Create a new scene, we're going to call it P2. You would obviously name it based on what you wanted it to be named. I'm going to load this up. So, now we've got this loaded, we can move on to the downloading of the assets. I will include a link to the Unity website on this video. I'm going to extract it. Not going to do it this way. I'm not a big fan of doing it this way. So I'm going to close out of this and do it a different way. So, extract the files, put them where we want. Then we're going to find the package file that comes with them. I'm going to drag that over to the engine browser. So dragging it and dropping it into the assets. Wait for it to load a minute. There we go. We're going to go through and see what's new. So again, some animals, some items, some new materials. Some's not changing, that's fine. We've got some miscellaneous. Got some prefabs. We've got some scenes. We don't need the scene, so we're going to deselect that. Wait for everything to import. Then we're going to have a look at what problems have arisen. So I'll give it a second. We're going to move over to Assets, Course Library. I'm going to have a look what we've got. So we've got source files, we've got some materials, we've got the ground, which didn't change. So we have to make a ground. Let's have a look at what source we've got. We've got some new items here for the FBX. These new models. Got some animations. And we've got a lot of new materials. However, they're all pink, because they're imported using the standard shader. So we're going to select all of them with a shift click. I'm going to change them all to Universal Render Pipeline Lit. We're then going to go through the ones we want and change what we want. Changing this one, we're going to add it as well. I'm going to add the base map. So it's Polygon Prototype Texture 1. I'm going to do some simple animal farm. And do the simple dogs. Yep. Farmer black. Just increase this so I can actually see what else we've got. Yep. Remember the name and select the texture. I'm not going to do all of these, just the ones I want. You can do them all if you wish. I'm going to do these ones here, as they look quite nice. Look like they're going to be important. I'm going to do simple items, simple forest animals. I'm going to do shop interiors. Now we're going to create a new plane for our ground. I originally wanted a quad, but then I decided I didn't like how it looked. So deleting that, let's do a cube. I'm going to change this to 0, 0, 0. I'm going to put it on the 10 on the X, 10 on the Y, on the Z. Go to where it is. I'm going to change that to a 0.5 on the Y. Now going off to game, we can see the camera is not very flattering. So let's change the camera. So I'm going to reset this to a position we want. There we go. I'm going to rotate it 90 on the X. Going over to game, you can see we've got a lot on the screen. We won't see the edges. So I'm going to move this up. On the y-axis, just increase it a little bit more. That should be okay. But you see the background's a bit bad, so we're going to change it from environment background to solid color. I'm going to make this a solid black. Go back to game, looking good. Now we're going to need a material for this. As you can see, they're pink, so we're going to find one we like. Now, here there are 4 materials, and I'll be using material underscore grass. Just give me a minute. Just checking something. And make sure these are the right materials for the job. Okay, so here we go. Material underscore grass. Now change this to universe render pipeline. We can do lit. Change a base map to find the texture underscore grass. Go back to the materials. I'm going to drag it onto the scene. Wait for it to load and let's have a look how it looks. There we go. Looking good. Now we're going to add a player. So I'm going to create an empty game object. I'll call this player. I'm going to add our human onto the farmer black. I'm going to put it under player. And we're going to reset this to 000. That's the parent game object. You notice it's quite large. So, let's change the scale. The scale we're going to go for 0.2 across the board. Yep, that looks better. Moving it back so it's near the edge of the screen, but not off the edge. Good. Now then, that is all for now. We will continue this in the next video. We will implement animals, food, and player script. I will see you then. Goodbye.